Okay, hi and welcome everyone to today's webinar with neuroflash. It's good to have you all here. Yeah, great to see so many people of you. And this is no surprise because today we want to talk about a great and very cool topic. Generative AI, where do we stand today actually, and what comes after ChatGPT, something that was heavily discussed in the past weeks and months. And today we want to give you some cool insights into this topic. Before we get into the topic, let me quickly explain to you the tool that we're using today. On the right side, you see a chat function. So if you have any questions throughout the whole webinar, just put down your questions there and we're going to take a look at them at the end of the webinar and we'll discuss them, of course. So please make use of that function. And on the left side, you should see our slides, our shared screen, and also us. And you should also be able to hear us. And in case this is not, or if it's not the case, just let us know in the chat and we'll try to make that work. Talking about the agenda for today's webinar, some welcoming words from myself. I'll hand over soon to Jonathan, who I'll introduce later on, who is going to walk you through the topic of generative AI, who's going to tell you quite interesting insights into the world of generative AI. Where do we stand today? What can we expect from the future? And then in the end, as I said already, we're going to take some time for your questions. We're happy to answer your questions, of course. And you might expect also a little gift from our side. Some words maybe about myself before I introduce you to Jonathan. My name is Lasse. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at neuroflash, so responsible for holding these webinars. So you might have seen me already in these kind of webinars in the past. And also, if you have put down some questions to our support team, you might have already heard something from me back. So I'm also working on our support side and always happy to answer your questions and help you. And yeah, but the main character for today's webinar is Jonathan, Dr. Jonathan Mal, who I'd quickly like to introduce you to before handing over to him. Jonathan received his PhD in cognitive neuropsychology in the Netherlands at the University of Groningen. And you might not expect it, but with over 20 years of experience so far in communication psychology and data science, he actually knows what words mean in our brains and how to measure them mathematically or with statistical models. And not only that, he also has worked in marketing and has designed campaigns for international brands that have won the Effie Awards, which is an award for the most effective marketing campaigns. His AI tools, including neuroflash, are used by over 300,000 users to generate content, to generate AI-based content and communicate better. He's fascinated by what makes people tick and what they click on certain content. And it says here on my notes, they like turtles. So that is a surprise. And with this, let me welcome Jonathan. The stage is yours and enjoy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lasse, and thank you very much for the kind and improvised introduction. So as Lasse already said, I like to help people to express themselves using AI. And many of you may struggle with the right piece of paper, finding the right words, having the right ideas. And today we'll learn how to use technology to overcome those hurdles and create the story that is truly you. And talking about, maybe my life story, you've seen and heard quite a lot, but I think in the last 10 years, I have really found my voice and become more confident in expressing myself. Wasn't always the case. You can see my beautiful cringe photo here on the left. When I was a kid, I would dress up with a suit to look cool, and I had my nose in the books, and whatever I had in my head, that I wanted to express, I often didn't do. So yeah, has been quite a journey. But right now we are in this interesting time too, where we're in a time where things like ChatGPT are shining a light, and it's not quite clear what it means. They're certainly helping us to find answers, They can help us to create content and express ourselves. So let's talk about it. What does it mean? What is the challenge many people face? It is actually this. How do you express content in words when there's this angry, evil white paper right in front of you? Very often what happens is that you get this writer's block, that you get frustrated. And I know this from personal experience, absolutely. It is depressing to sit there, to not know what to write about. It's like wading through toothpaste. It's very sluggish. And the worst thing is, there's others, there may be the competition, who have just posted on LinkedIn, Insta, or they've just released a blog post, and they're getting the customers, they're getting the clicks, and it's not you. And at the same time, if you go and you do things, and you do SEO analysis, and you research your paper, well, it can take a long time, and you get this angry face because you're just wasting so much time to find the right things. And then, of course, there may even be a boss standing in the way, right? Because either he wants you to, stay in your lane and not use new automation tools, do it as we've done for 50 years, or he will demand more than you can possibly do by just writing with your fingers alone. So, for all of these challenges, summarized, there's more content, channels, touch points, and personalization that is needed, and there's less consumer attention, time to market, budget, and room for errors. So, depressing. Let's get to the light, though. What you'll learn today, because we're here to learn about the past and the future of AI. So you'll learn how we came here. You will also learn what is actually the status quo, what makes ChatGPT tick, how does it work, why is it special. You'll get a glimpse into AI in the future, how it may look like in 1 to 2 years. And over everything is this idea that there's something that you can do at the end of this presentation that you can do immediately to benefit from these new technologies and start writing your story or start to express your brand personality. As mentioned, the brain is my friend. I've looked at it in scans and everything, but I also used the insights to apply AI working with major brands to create their campaigns or optimize them, optimize words, optimize visuals. And of course, lots of research has also gone into this at various institutions and in various positions. So let's get into some of the history. I wasn't even alive when some of this AI stuff came out. But to make it a bit more manageable today, when we talk about the history of AI, we're going to mainly focus on text and image generation. I believe, 2 main parts of where generative AI is already super, super powerful. So here's the timeline. And you can see 1940s to the 2010s on the top row. And a long time ago, Alan Turing has been talking about it, wrote papers. There was even a chatbot released in 1966. But you can see that the progress, the milestones are few and far between. Just in 2020, GPT-3 was released. That is the precursor of everything that we see now. And even in that year, many things happened. And since then, it's just an almost daily thing that a new model that has huge improvements is coming out. So why are they getting better? Well, one reason is that they're getting bigger. Bigger is better, not only true in Texas, but also true for models. Here you can see various sizes of these models. Usually we indicate the size of a model with the amount of parameters that they use. Parameters can be kind of seen as the amount of neurons, right? Something that can encode information just like in our heads. But there's more factors, of course, that play a role. But generally, bigger is better. And they're definitely getting bigger. They consume more and more data, and they are built on more and more of these neurons, on these parameters. Also, the image models are getting bigger. They get trained on more images. They get trained on more image captions. and therefore also they develop more fidelity, they get cleaner and more beautiful. Interestingly, there are now coming, some new models are coming on the market that combine these, what are called modalities. A modality can be text, a modality can be video or image, and these new models, they start to integrate more and more of them at the same time, right? One model is usually based on just one modality, GPT-3, just text, but here, like the Gato, it can do many things, meaning it can also generate more things. It can generate text, it can generate an image, but it can also send instructions to a robot hand to solve a Rubik's Cube, for example, or simulate the environment. So we as humans, we tend to learn also from modalities, right? If we see a picture of something, there's more information that we can get from just reading a description of the scene in text. And likewise, the machines using more modalities are apparently learning more things. Talking about learning more things and becoming smart, once a model is done, in fact, often it is a surprise to find out what they can do. They have to be put through tests to find what are the capabilities of a model. So when this model here was trained, this is a Google model, they just found out that it was able to explain jokes. It was able to do physics Q&A. Things that you need to test, because once the model is done, it's just there and you need to see what it can do. Again, cannot think on its own, of course, right? It will not come up with a task that it wants to solve. It has been trained on a task. But what we then interpret as a capability that we can use, like summarizing a text, that is something that you need to find out. And as I said, almost a daily thing that these new models come out, and it is quite a time to be alive, I can tell you, and can be tiring at times to just know about them and then integrate them and test them yourself to see what they can do. But why is it that they can get better and smarter, and there's more and more of them being released? The reason is it gets cheaper. So the computing cost has been diminished rapidly, as you can see in this picture, and it's going down still. So that means that, for example, one of the first transformer models, the GPT-3, cost 10 to 20 million, whereas the publicly funded one released 2 years later costs only 1/4 of that amount. It's not quite ready yet, to have the AI being trained on your mobile phone, but these models, maybe they will be able to be done on your phones alone. Let's give it a bit more time. Nevertheless, by the way, even though it gets cheaper, it's still very, very costly and time consuming. And that's why you only see a few of these so-called fundamental models out there, like OpenAI is releasing them, and Civility AI, etc., because it's still very resource intensive to create these big models. Yeah, so that's the history. Older than you may think, older than me for sure, but definitely getting bigger, smarter, cheaper to build. But for us, that just means they can do much more, and they will be able to do much more in the future. So let's come to today, and let's set the fundamentals, the basic for understanding what makes these new models so interesting. What was the new innovation? Because you may have realized that people talk about these so-called transformer models, and I will too, and they are the latest evolutionary step. And you can see the little brothers here, left and right, different types of models. But as you can see, they are squarey, they don't look really human-like. Only the transformer does. Not perfect, of course, but I will tell you why the transformer is currently considered to be the best way of achieving something akin to intelligence. The key is attention. As the paper that everything is based on is mentioned, attention is all you need. You can also see, by the way, why Google is so sour about Bing now having ChatGPT in the interface, because this paper was written by Google employees, and then OpenAI ran with it. So what does this transformer do? A transformer takes a sentence, a sequence of words, and then generates the next word, and so forth until another sequence of words is there that we would call a sentence. And it could look like this. But let's look exactly at what this transformer model actually does. As I mentioned, it doesn't think on its own. what it does is it completes the sentence. It's an autocomplete on steroids. So let's walk through. This is the input, 5 words. The transformer would now predict that the next word will be and. Given this little sentence, very likely a new sentence will now begin. I can connect them with the word and. Good. Next word it predicts is the word began. Interestingly, that doesn't refer to the just previous word, but a few words back to the word entered, because once the aliens have entered the planet, they began doing something. That's the most likely word there. Next, you have the word to, because you begin to do something, colonize Earth, and so forth. But you see here that each next generation of word is dependent on what came before. Aliens was the second word, and it went back all the way back here, extraterrestrials, aliens. There's a connection that has a very broad gap. And why is that critical? It is critical because the other models, the RNN, for example, they cannot look that far back. So once they are at a certain point, they have forgotten that the aliens already entered our planet. So it will continue the story in a way that doesn't make sense to us, because we remember, we know that the aliens has entered the planet, but the model does not. And likewise, other models, they may have increased this window of attention, but they don't see the whole thing. They don't see the whole context. Only the transformer is theoretically able to have an infinite reference window to really see the complete context of in which the next word would appear. And that is the superpower, because an infinite reference window means that you could have a whole paragraph in front of this, maybe even a whole book. It would be very costly to have it this large, by the way. Most current models are limited, but you could. And now imagine you do that. Let's imagine you have as a context for the generation everything that you have written in your whole life. The then predicted next sentence will very much look like a sentence that you would write. And that is the power of these transformers, this endless, or at least much longer context window, so that the task that it's doing will be more like the task that you want it to do, because it can understand with a bigger window what you want. And that makes the transformer the king of the crop, the cream of the crop. GPT-3 and ChatGPT are based on this transformer architecture. So thanks to the attention, it has context. And that is interesting, because wait a second, you said that there was already GPT-3 2 years ago. So, and that's on the same technology. So what makes ChatGPT so special? And well, first off, thanks for paying attention. And second, let me explain. So the first thing that makes ChatGPT special is human feedback learning. So humans were used to provide feedback on the generation of this model, and they would rank them. They would say, I really like this response, don't really like this one, oh, this one is terrible. And the AI was able to learn from that feedback what the human liked. And it would then use that feedback to train itself to do stuff, to generate things that humans like more. Maximize what humans like. Human feedback is the mechanism that made it different from the fundamental model, which is the base GPT-3. And second, there's a familiar interface with this model. I'll show you what that means. So first, this is the human feedback. So you have GPT-3 as a base model. That is the big model, the fundamental foundational model. And on top of that, you use humans to train, and that training will go into one of these reinforcement networks that then in turn train GPT-3, fine-tune it in order to become ChatGPT. But that's not all. So now you have a model that does what humans like, but it will also do things that humans may like, but that's probably not a good idea to do, like give you instructions how to break into a bank. And that's why ChatGPT also has this brick of safety. The safety mechanism will prevent users from creating things that are harmful to society, like how to create a Molotov cocktail. It's not very easy to get out of the model nowadays. That's safety, and that's very important to be there. And by the way, also neuroflash has these filters in place so that it is not able to produce things that are, for example, hate speech. That is something that you cannot produce with our models. And interestingly, by the way, this is ChatGPT, OpenAI, and on the left you can see Google's approach, different names, but as you can see, very similar architecture. I think the biggest difference between Google and OpenAI in this case is that OpenAI puts out these models like ChatGPT into the wild, and people who then throw things at it also teach it on what to expect from humans, on how they may try to trick the engine to give, let's say, interesting results or unintended results. And I think that's a big benefit of doing this open testing. Likewise, by the way, on neuroflash, whatever you as a user like, we also use as feedback and train the AI, fine-tune it, so that the then next generation will look more like something that you would have liked. So this is a mechanism that can be used to improve the quality in this way as well. That was the first thing, human feedback. Good. Second, though, look at this interface. Where do you think you need to click? And where do you think you need to click to send off your question? It's down there. So it's the chat window. And that is because you are very familiar with this type of interface. Chatting, WhatsApp, Instagram, Telegram, any of these services, they have some kind of a chat functionality. Intuitive interface, but what else? You feel like there's someone on the other side. A chat usually happens with another entity. And now you have it like with the Tamagotchi, some kind of a connection. ChatGPT currently doesn't ask for food, or attention, luckily, but it's the same concept. We as humans think, hey, something on the other side is being nice to me. Something on the other side is helping me. You can personify this other entity. And I think for humans that was really nice, because before it felt like interacting with code that's cool, but cold and non-human, and now it's warm and fuzzy. And I've seen people who chat with ChatGPT and they say thank you to the robot, which is, why would you say thank you? But it feels good to do it because you feel thankful. Okay, so that is what makes ChatGPT special. What now? Because the issue is, it exists, it produces things that humans like, but does it produce the best output that when you use it also sets you apart? And the answer is, that's difficult. And that's why there are prompt guide books. And there are even courses on prompt engineering, because the right input determines good output. So a bad prompt, a bad instruction, will get you bad output. And a good prompt will get you good output. And to take off this burden on the user to know exactly what words to use in order to get the best type of output, there are these books, but there's also a function released, I think 2 weeks ago, which is called templates, where you can just select one of those things that are a good format, a good text that is almost guaranteed to produce output that is very much like what you would like. You see here, write a poem and a few steps, a job description, etc. More complex tasks where you need a really fine-tuned template to produce good results. And anything in neuroflash, you can see here, the magic quill, the magic pen, any content type that you select is also already fine-tuned. So the prompt in the background, you can't see it, but it is many generations of improvements that you have access to if you use one of these predefined content types. Same result, it is more likely, almost guaranteed to produce very good results. And lastly, so little exclusive thing here, neuroflash is also launching a chat feature very soon with templates baked in that you can use in order to chat with a beautiful, warm being at the other side. Not sure whether we've given the neuroflash thing a name yet. So far, it's just called ChatFlash. But yeah, let's see. You may have seen Kiona running around. And yeah, anyways, so that's that chat feature is coming out. So what have we learned here? ChatGPT is special because of this human feedback learning, a familiar interface, but we also see that you as a user still need to give it the right input in order to produce output that really sets you apart. So that was the past, current, and what's next. What's next is what is called a DAN. I also just learned this word. It's apparently stands for do anything now. And do anything now means I tell you what to do and you give me that thing. I tell you to write this, you give me that thing. I tell you to create a picture of that, you give me that picture. And I think these types of interactions being triggered with natural language will likely make it into many of our favorite apps. Winword, it's now on Bing, will likely come to Google Docs. You will be able to do things with it in the places where you already are. It'll be able to generate more things, multimodal, as I mentioned. So text to voice, text to video, text to music, music to music, right? Input, output, the AI helps you to generate all of these different things. As I mentioned, multimodal. So you can even give it a picture and it would be able to describe what's on the picture, maybe already create a product description based on the product that you are showing as a picture. And this one is really interesting, especially for me as a psychologist, this chain of thought, the ability to do multiple steps. If you write a book, you cannot just say, write me a book, right? There's a chain of thought that goes into it. And the chain of thought may be, let's think about a character, okay? And now let's think about a setting, okay? What would be the right time frame for this character to have an interesting experience? And could the experience maybe as a theme point to some kind of bigger message? These different questions in sequence could help you to write a book more efficiently. So I think they will be applied in order to do exactly that. So help you through many steps of thought with these large language models or other AIs. But the big side effect of all of this is there's going to be a flood of meh content. That is content that is, yeah, it's there, it exists. But other than that, it's not helpful. It's just there. It may even, fulfill keyword norms, but it's not interesting, not exciting, and it doesn't carry any particular unique story. In pictures, you can imagine any place where you are. You just ask a question, you say, create an image, and you get the image. You may say, create a video of a fat cat meowing. Nothing against cats, by the way. Big cat fan. Even though turtles, I know the superior species. But you can see also here the quality. Right now, it's okay. You can see it's kind of moving, but I think it can be much better in order to be perceived to be a more cute meowing cat. Something like this exists. You can see I upload an image here of I think that's Wednesday. And then I simply give the language instructions, make her old, and the AI just makes her old. So the AI understands and is able to apply the understanding on an image and do exactly what I wanted, making her old. But as I said, the biggest threat of all these generative AIs is this meh content. It's just there, but not interesting. And what can you do against this? Realize and use what makes you unique. So let me tell you a story about uniqueness. When I was in school, I had a friend called Frank. And Frank would come to me and tell me about his challenge to find a girlfriend. He was struggling with connecting and he wanted me to help him. So, arrogant as I was, I gave him the best advice that I had. Honestly, it wasn't very good advice. And he used it. He used my advice and it failed. And so he came to me again and said, hey, Jonathan, do you have more tips on what I can do? And I said, I don't know. I gave you everything that I knew and I don't know what else to do. And the way that Frank looked at me in that moment, realizing with despair that he thought there may be nothing he can do, it was absolutely heartbreaking. 10 years later, Frank is now called Franka, and I had a chat with him, and he feels a lot happier now, expressing who he is much more clearly. And I also realized in that moment that me expecting to give him my tips, the way that I would do it, obviously wouldn't work for him, because he was him, and maybe back then even he was already her. And the message that I'm trying to send here is this uniqueness is the starting point of generating content, whether it's your own personality and what makes you special, or the personality of the brand that you're writing for. Both are unique, and you are the source, the author of your own unique AI content. Because remember the context window of these transformers, right? This beautiful robot. If you do give it what makes you unique, the words that you use, the phrases that you use, the things that you know, the things that you're interested in, well, then it will complete the prompt, write a LinkedIn post in a way that sounds more like you, comes from your perspective. And then the content is also expressing you, making you stand out in this sea of bad meh content. So, okay, what can you do right now? I say, use what you've just learned from this ChatGPT interface, where this human experience of asking a question, getting an answer, to your advantage, because it feels very natural. And you can do that by using a prompt like this. What are the top 5 questions your target audience has about your topic? And of course, fill in the blanks. So you would fill in your target audience, maybe it's copywriters, and your topic may be AI writing software. Well, that's exactly what I did. Put it into neuroflash, and I used the command function, which basically is like the first step in a chat. So you send it off, and it completes exactly what I wanted. It will give me 5 of these questions. And now all I need to do in a very natural way is answer one of them. So I take the question number 4, and I answer this question in my own words. And I mean literally the words that I would use to describe it. So what I do in this following example is I wanted to bring across that unique content makes the AI generated content unique, obviously, that's the message. And I remembered that when I was in competitive debating, we would often use metaphors to bring our point across that were very imagery, right? They were easy to picture, and they were kind of unique and emotionally rich. So that's exactly what I put in here, right? Using creative metaphors in debating competitions. I put in this prompt, and the resulting LinkedIn post tells my story. I just give it one sentence, and of course here it creates the headline, it creates the whole story, but again, it's based on me, on my experience. So this content is good content. I will proudly post this, maybe change it a little bit, but it's expressing me. And I think this is what you can do right now. You can use these prompt templates, use this question and answer pattern, and always ensure that when you input anything into an AI, you truly give it the context that makes you you and unique. Because that is how you get light into the darkness and into this sea of meh content in the end. Let's wrap up then. So what have you learned? I hope you have learned that AI is kind of old, the concept, but thanks to advances in technology, the cost specifically for computing has gone down so much, it is growing, and it's growing faster and faster and faster. Second, the reason why ChatGPT is so viral is because it adheres to what humans like, and it uses an interface that they know and they can relate to. And third, the future is truly bright. You have no idea how often lately I say the words, "What a time to be alive," not only because I listen or I watch the 2-minute papers on YouTube, but because it's really true. It is so fast, but it's such a whirlwind of creative possibilities. It's amazing. But for any individual or any brand to truly thrive in this content boom, right, you need to produce content that is unique. And what I hope to have shown you today is that you need to define that still. And that makes you the author of the content that the AI helps you to create. This white piece of paper, the depressing feeling of, wading through mud, toothpaste, or losing so much time when doing all this research, there are these shortcuts. Use them. Let the AI ask you questions and answer them with your unique voice. And should the boss baby stand in your way, say like, "Oh, it's too expensive and we have always done it in a different way," that's not exactly how babies talk, maybe. But just tell him, well, look, others are saving time and money using this technology. Why aren't we? Because if the competition is doing it, well, they're going to eat us. And overall, remember that the idea and the authorship lies with you expressing who you are in a unique way and using that to make content truly special. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. What a journey through generative AI. Cool story, great insights. Thanks a lot. Yeah, everyone attending the webinar, now you have the choice to send in your questions, use the chat function. It might be any questions related to what Jonathan has shown you, related to AI in general or to neuroflash. We just want to give you a few more minutes to put them in the chat because I don't see any questions right now. So Jonathan, I think, you left no questions unanswered apparently. But if you still are typing your questions in, then no problem. We'll continue slowly. In the meantime, maybe Jonathan, could you move 2 slides?
Of course. 2 slides. There you go.
To the front, because while you guys may still type in your questions, we promised you a little gift at the beginning of the webinar, and just as a sign of our appreciation that you took part in this webinar and that you show interest in neuroflash and into the topic of generative AI, you can use the voucher code webinar 14 to get a 14% discount on your monthly subscription forever at neuroflash. So if you're interested in trying out what Jonathan has just shown you, then just use this link that you should see right now on your screen to register at neuroflash and make use of your coupon code to be able to write content even cheaper. As I still don't see any questions, Jonathan, I think you have done an absolutely fantastic job. There is one comment right now from Marianella.
That was just in the nick of time. Good job.
Yeah.
All right. So the most difficult part is precisely find our voice through this tool. Yeah, very good. So there was a prompt in here. Ask me 5 questions, or what are 5 questions from my target audience about my topic. That will get you going, because the voice is very likely already in you. It just needs to be triggered, usually with a question. And you can ask yourself questions, but it's much easier to have the AI ask you questions. That's definitely one way. And by answering questions of your target group, you will find that voice and how you explain it. And then over time, you'll just see what people also react to. So the tool is definitely a tool for writing. but we see more and more this need for inspiration of what should I do next? What is the idea that that people are interested in? So also hang tight. There are some tools that will come out to help you in that even more. And until then, just have the AI ask you questions from the perspective of your target group, and you'd be surprised how easy it is to answer questions rather than just thinking about things that they may find interesting.
And if you need a little bit of support for your first steps in neuroflash, you might want to take a look at the link that I just put into the chat. We will have another webinar next Tuesday where I will guide you through the first steps in neuroflash to show you how to work in neuroflash. So if you're new to neuroflash, maybe use the chance to join that webinar where we go into the app and I will explain your first steps so that it is easier for you, Marianella, to find your voice and express yourself. And then, lastly, last point from my side, which I'm going to stop because I see another question. Great.
So many nick of times.
There is a question from Celine asking, so far I know the GPT-3 AI is trained with data until 2021. How do you think this time gap will be solved in the future to have more recent data included in the system? Great question.
Short answer, instant lookup, and then combination with your search request. Meaning, doing an immediate search for news on that topic, for example, if it's something that is time dependent, who won the game yesterday, that will be in the news. So if you do a search request, you take that text, maybe it's this much text that you don't want to read because your question was who scored the goal. Well, then the large language model can look at the text, extract who shot the goal, and give you that response. And that's how you will be always as up to date as our search engines allow. And this is, I think, also the way forward. I think these language models, as I said, they cannot think, but they can help you do intelligent things. But looking up information in the vastness of internet, other technologies are generally better, faster, like indexed search, like Google is using or Bing is using. So I think a combination of the two will help. And we're definitely looking into that. And we're also looking, right now, we're developing a way to find immediate references so that if you have a recent request, it can immediately find something that is up to date and speaks to the point that you are making so that you have references with authority.
Perfect. Celine, hopefully this has answered your question. If not, maybe just type in another message so we know you still have some points open regarding that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, she says. Great. Okay, then I continue to speak slowly to let you use the last minutes to ask some more questions. I was about to say only one more thing, which is to send you this little link to a short feedback survey. Really appreciate it if you took 2 minutes of your time to let us know how you like this webinar, and if there are any topics that you would like us to present and show in the next weeks, month, in this format. You have the chance there. Any feedback would be really appreciated for us to improve and optimize this format and make the best out of it so that, it's helpful for you. And Jonathan, anything to add from your side?
Still like turtles, and thank you very much for being here.
Great. Thanks again for that confirmation. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We hope you enjoy your time with your magic pen from neuroflash. Try to get creative, try to express yourself, and have a good rest of the day wherever you might be at the moment. And hopefully see you soon. See you next time.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.